Technology is ruining our kids. Teachers, have you ever had a parent say that to you? And parents, hey, we've all thought it, so we'd be absolutely irresponsible if we didn't confront the reality that this statement just might have some truth to it. On this episode, we aim to provide you teachers with the tools to lead this conversation and guide families through the process of gaining control of their kids' technology at home.
Teachers, do you ever feel ill-equipped to lead and help your families with these conversations about their child's tech? You see the kids sleeping in class because they've been up all night on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Who even knows what they're doing? We've got great news for you. We are here to share with you a presentation that you can give to your parents. We're going to give it to you for free, and stick around because we're going to walk you through that presentation. And by the end of this episode, you'll be able to lead the conversation at your school with the parents. Welcome to the EdTech Unpacked Podcast, where we inspire and equip educators to create meaningful learning experiences, highlighting a thoughtful approach to the integration of technology as we teach and transform the lives of our students. I'm Desmond Suarez.
And I'm Aaron Long, and we are passionate about helping educators learn how to better use technology to engage their students.
Hey, Aaron, I got to get to know you question. We like to do this each episode, and mine just was because I had an experience this last week where I learned something I'm excited about. But what have you learned recently about AI?
Oh, man, it's almost like a day doesn't go by. You don't learn something new, right? When you're using it.
Very true. It's changing so quick.
And we keep doing episodes that have some element of AI, and yet here we are like learning constantly. So we're all in that boat together. If you're out there feeling overwhelmed, don't. We're all in this boat together. So, hey, for me, I was on X recently, and I saw a reposting that had to do with what's called AGI. It is a little bit, isn't it? So it has to do with like a benchmark for the ability of AI to process. In fact, I had pulled up an AI definition for this. I thought we'd just read real quick. So what is AGI? It's a type of artificial intelligence designed to possess human-like cognitive abilities, including reasoning, learning, understanding language, and common sense, allowing it to adapt and apply knowledge across diverse domains. Hey, that's a pretty big mouthful there, but as Desmond and I were talking through this, it's a human-like way to process and reason. Okay, that's how I understand this. And what I've seen on the benchmarks, okay, they actually test out the different models, the different AI platforms. Apparently, Grok is almost to the place of reaching that AGI status on these benchmarks, which kind of blows me away. I didn't know that they were out front of that. The pack. We talk a lot about ChatGPT and Gemini and some of the others, but not as much about Grok. So maybe we'll have to give that a little bit more of a look. But that kind of blew me away that we're in that space. And you think about, well, what are we going to do with that? And that's maybe the scary part. How about you, Desmond?
Yeah, I just want to comment on that for a bit because there's a lot there, and that's a whole episode for sure. But the AGI is something that really, man, the definition, you gave us a definition. I thought it was a good one. But every time I hear some AI company talk about how close they are to AGI, I'm always wondering what their definition is. And some of the definitions can be mild. Some of them are, we're going to be God and we're going to create life. And I'm not sure what X's definition of that is, but it is kind of crazy the progress that they're making and what they want to make. And I personally think they're probably not as close as they're saying. And because I think it is harder than they're acting like it. But then also, I was telling Aaron, I think the scarier part is less about the technology and more about the people. And really, it's most of the AI companies. There's a few exceptions. The people who want to act like God and create these. And if you're familiar with the Tower of Babel, it feels an awful lot like that story. So it's a little scary, and some of them are trying to be God, and I don't think they'll be successful.
I can guarantee they won't. All right, Desmond, how about you?
All right, yeah, but what I learned is a lot less existential. I want to demo this, but I think I'll share the demo for another episode or a short. But I was at a student leadership conference this last weekend. And one of my favorite things about those is to hang out with the other teachers. And while our students are doing their thing, we get to sit in the back and chat and catch up. And so as I was doing that, I was kind of showing them some of the AI stuff that we did in our last episode. So check that out if you want to see that conversation about creating apps and stuff with AI. And then I showed some graphics I'd made with using AI. And then I left to go do something else. And I came back, and one of them was designing graphics using Gemini. And I'd never hadn't recently done a whole lot with designing whole graphics for Gemini. And I was really impressed how he was creating a logo, and he would give feedback of saying, add this thing, remove this thing, change this thing in the way that you would like give feedback to like a graphic designer of being like, oh, make this a little bigger, make this a little smaller, change this font, change this wording. And it was doing it perfectly. And I was really impressed on the iterability where you can keep making changes. And it was cool. You could change the colors. It's just really worked well.
That's impressive, because I think you and I have played around with the image generation thing in its earlier forms. And that was one of the areas I never really had a lot of success, is when it comes up with an idea, you're like, no, change this, and it'll change everything, or maybe change the thing you didn't want it to. And so that's interesting. Maybe I'll have to give it another look, but I haven't done a lot with the image generation. So promising.
Yeah, he was changing the wording. He would would add and replace words, and it'd be the same style and same look. He would add elements, take them away, change the colors of certain parts. It was impressive.
Well, hey, what we've learned here today, if nothing else, there's a lot going on in AI, right? It's moving. So we could probably ask that question every episode, okay? And we'd have a new answer, right? And it'd be something profound. So, all right, hey, Desmond, that takes us to our topic today. So before we dive in and really unpack the tech, got a question for you, all right? Have you ever had a parent say something like this? Or maybe, hey, you're a parent, so maybe this has crossed your mind. I'm so frustrated with my kid always on tech at home. I hope they aren't on tech at school. Okay, maybe that's one. Or how about this one? My kid already gets way too much screen time at home, so I hope they don't get very much at school. You ever had that?
Yes, and I tell you what, like as a parent and as a teacher who's at home with my kids, and I don't even know how you parents do it that don't have the summer off, because as a teacher, I get the summer off with my kids, but it is like gearing up for war every day. I understand I'm reasonable to give them some screen time, but it is like fighting a war every day as my objective, as I put on my helmet, my armor, is to reduce the screen time of my kids. It's this battle of like, I guess I could be a super mean ogre and take it all away, but I want to give them some screen time, but they're always begging for more. And I know that my kids are not just some unique obsessive children. It is a constant battle. And some kids fight for it more than others. I have my oldest, he is really fighting for it a lot. My younger, he likes it, and he'll go on, back and forth, but
this is what I was actually wondering. So we didn't dialogue on this piece ahead of time, but honestly, as you and I are sitting here today, I know the answer to this. All right. But I could probably ask every single parent, and guess what? They'd probably all resonate with this or say something real similar, right? Yeah, they get way too much screen time. So then the question is, how does that relate to school? Okay, so this is a follow-up that maybe isn't so obvious, but it's something, we as educators wrestle with. We want to be thoughtful about, because many of us are parents. We see the side at home, the impact. But next question, this is a follow-up. Is all screen time the same?
So I'm answering first. All right. Well, as a teacher who loves using technology in the classroom, no. But I do think that, and I want to get into the nuances, but I do also think that there is a fatigue that you get from screen time. And I think that there's this balance of the tool is so powerful. And I, as a teacher who obviously, you're listening to me talk, loves educational technology, also can see that balance is needed while we're here. I will at times print assignments off. I'll be like, oh, should I give it digitally or printed? It's a print day. we're printing this. I hate managing it on the back end. That's my worst part.
Wait a second. You're saying you're intentional with technology at school? Okay. Just checking. All right.
And part of it is like the assignment, but occasionally I'll be like, all right, I can tell these kids have had way too much screen time. And we're cutting this. I also, as we talk regularly, I am constantly monitoring their screens in class.
This is what I was picturing as you said that, like the fatigue, like, because we've all, as teachers, we've all seen this when you do monitor. Okay. Not all schools have a good system for monitoring. Call to action. Okay. Got to monitor screens. All right. But, you see the camera app open. They're checking their it's a mirror, right? They're checking their appearance. And you see all these random apps open that, nothing nefarious going on, but they're just using it as a distraction. And so like, I totally feel what you're saying, that fatigue, just the distraction side of it. Got to monitor, guys. Okay. Got to monitor proactively.
But that didn't completely answer, I think, the question you were asking.
No, it didn't.
And like, I even think of like the games that my kids play. Some of them I see a higher quality of like, and we're just going to talk about the games for a moment. But I can tell the way they are acting and processing, and also just looking at the quality of the games. Roblox, I would be happy if it died tomorrow. Like Roblox, maybe if you know redemptive values to Roblox, put them in the comments. But it is because I have not found them. But the quality overall is poor. Their security, their parental controls have gotten better, but still aren't very good. The way it engages my kids' brains versus like building something in Minecraft is completely different.
So you're even comparing like one game to another.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So you're really getting into specifics here. And when I threw this question to you, I was honestly thinking, is there a difference between consumerism on a device, whether that's watching videos, movies, shorts, TikTok, versus like educational related activities like taking a quiz or diagramming a heart or things that are education based? But you're going to the level of even within games, there's a difference. So
I think as a parent and as someone who likes to create, I like creating things. And I want to encourage my kids, my kids to create, my students too, but to create more. And I think there is like you're engaging different part of the brain when you're creating something creative, not just like leveling up. And so your artificial city in a game grows bigger, but like you're creating something unique. And I think there's value in that even within the game world. And if we go to like what they're watching, there is this, what they call brain rot, right? This junk on social media. Even the kids know it's junk, right? They make fun of each other, and then yet they're consuming it. And versus the edutainment, which I want to do an episode on edutainment. But even within edutainment, how do they vet and know the quality of the sources and what it's saying?
All right. So what I'm hearing you say, we've got a big difference. Okay. We need to be really intentional, right? Whether that's games, whether that's education related content, we should be thoughtful and intentional. Okay. That's what I hear you saying. Is that a fair summary?
Yes. That is a very, very fair summary.
And I think as educators, we can really soapbox on this one. Okay. But obvious reason we're asking this question, we're educators and we love educational technology. All right. We're going to be getting into a heavy topic today. All right. And before we do that, we kind of wanted to set the stage that not all screen time is the same in terms of its impact on the individual. And I hope and think you'll believe and see that by the time we're done today. Again, teachers, this is for you. Parents, if you're tuning into this and you're a parent out there, hey, welcome to, even if this is the only episode you ever watch, we're glad you're here, because really the whole episode today is for parents to have a healthier mindset. Also, of course, teachers, it's to help you lead conversations with parents to frame technology and really to partner in technology with parents. And that's the end goal here. You'll see that by the end. So, Desmond, do we have anything else we want to mention before we get going?
Thoughtfulness, I think, as you said, is very important. And then I think, I think, as you said, is very important. And then to, I think, and maybe this is just a general parenting thing, being involved with your kids. The screens and the technology, and I use it as babysitting sometimes too, I have to admit. But it's so easy to just be babysitters. But one of the most important, or no, maybe the most important thing you can do as a parent is to be involved with your kids. Like, not just about the monitoring, but like monitoring what they're doing is important, but also just being involved with them, show interest in what they're doing, play some of the games with them.
Absolutely. We're going to dig into that in this presentation.
Okay, I'm getting ahead.
This is the heart and soul of it. No, you're right on point. You're nailing it. Good. Okay. But hey, if you like this content, if you're excited to see what's coming next, hey, go ahead and subscribe, because we'd love to have you around for more than just one episode. So take a moment, do that, set your notifications. And before we launch into unpacking the tech, one more thing I just want to mention here is, listen, it's really easy when we're addressing a big problem, okay, a big important question like we are today. This is a big one, guys, to really focus in on one element of the conversation. In this case, the one element would be the screens, okay? Any time with screen time is all equal. But guess what? This is a complex, complicated environment, isn't it? Because we have different types of screen time. And so some is monitored, some is not, some is engaged with parents, some is not. So it's complicated. Guess what? Today, it's not just about the technology. The presentation we're going to dive into, we're going to share with you. You're going to have this for free. We'll share the link with you in the show notes. This is a Canva presentation that the link shared will be a template. So you can take it, you can make it your own. We're giving you permission for that. Modify it to your liking. But we're going to start with a little bit of a backstory today. Okay, so with that, you ready, Desmond? Let's unpack the tech. All right, so here we are. We are going to share real quick. This is the background of this presentation. I've had the opportunity to present a few times to parents in different settings. And this summer here at Burton Academy, where I'm part of our admin team, we decided we were going to do some parent workshops. And so I was like, great, let's refresh this presentation and make it current. And we'll present to our parents as one of the topics. And so to be honest with you, is probably one of the most well-received presentations in that parents really, really want and need more input. So teachers, again, this episode is to empower you to have a healthy framework yourself, but also get to a place where you're comfortable leading a conversation with your parents. So by the end of this, we hope you see the value. But look, this is set up for you to put your terrific teacher name and your stellar school name. And this is for you. All right, here we go. If you haven't yet read the book, The Anxious Generation, listen, this to me was profound. I had a good friend, Dr. Cadet, Southwestern Adventist University, shared this book with me. Really profound. Can't say enough good stuff about it. Very research-based. And what it does, it goes through and frames childhood through two different lenses. So Desmond and I don't know where you fall actually in this. I can tell you where I fall. All right. But you have a play-based childhood, which he frames as 1980 through 2010, switching over to the rise of a phone-based childhood. All right. There's some really interesting metrics that are statistical. They're studied. And some of them have to do with how old were you? Okay. So I'm going to ask you this question. When you were first allowed to go to the gas station, the convenience store by yourself without an adult.
So are you saying like my parents are in the car and I walk inside?
No.
Oh.
You go from your house, and maybe it's a grocery store or nearby, convenience store, something like that. Or the park? We'll even go with the park because that was part of the framing as well.
The challenge with that is that by the time I probably would have been the right age, we were living in the woods. Okay. So we lived quite a ways away. Right. It would have been a journey. But what we did is we would, and maybe this is the same context, is that, we had 6 acres of property in the mountains, beautiful North Carolina. And then also all our neighbors did, and they were safe and good people as far as we could tell. We knew a lot of them. And so my parents would let us just go wander in the woods. And my brother did a lot of that.
I'm going to count wandering in the woods. When were you allowed to wander in the woods?
I'm trying to remember. My brother was probably younger than me, and he did a lot more of it than me. Credit to him. But I'm going to say for him, he might have been like 10 or younger.
Okay, that's fair.
When he would just, and sometimes we'd go together, and sometimes he'd go just him and the dog. It was a good life.
So
good life.
I'm actually kind of in that zone myself, a little younger. I was allowed, now I'd say alone with my brother. So really this is without adult supervision. Okay. Mm-hmm. We were allowed to go down to the convenience store probably by the time I was about 8 or 9.
We might have been that age. I can't remember the exact age.
Yeah. So it's really interesting when this study is done on people of different generations. What's found, and I'm cutting to the chase here, you got to read the book to see the detail of it. But what's been discovered is that as time has gone on, parents have become more and more restrictive. No big shocker there, okay? And now it's gone from middle to later single digits, 6 to 9 years old when this was allowed historically, to double-digit averages in most cases with these things, where 10 or older, where kids are first gaining some level of autonomy to have freedom outside of the home. And so what's interesting and pointed out in this book as well is that this isn't based on rational fears, okay? So we all think about the worst case scenario with our kids, right? As a parent, I just could never live with myself. However, that's not actually based on statistical evidence, okay? The world has not gotten more dangerous for kids going to the gas station on their own. We see a lot more news, okay? And we think, it must be more dangerous, but statistically, it's actually not at the time this book was published. So that's really an important point, okay? So parents are now restricting autonomy in students. And what's the replacement for that? Well, simultaneously, kids are inside more, so what are they going to do more? They're going to be on devices, right? They're going to be on screens. And so it's this really interesting convergence of a change in parenting. I told you we were going to give some more perspective to this conversation. It's a change in parenting combined with a rise of screens that appeared, right? We used to have a TV. Now we have TV and many, many devices everywhere we turn. So really interesting stuff. We don't have time on this episode to go too much deeper, but I promise you, if you read this book, it will very much inform your perspective on this as it has mine. So there's a correlated rise in mental health issues. We'll see that in a minute. We're going to dig in a little deeper on that one. And there's a collapse in foundational norms. Okay, so what is meant here? And by the way, again, I just emphasize all of this is statistically supported in this book, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. He talks about how free play that used to be encouraged in an unsupervised capacity is now restricted. Now, you might think COVID changed everything. Well, prior to that, this trend already existed where parents were not taking their kids to other kids' houses enough and having sleepovers and all the things we did as kids. Many of us, I'm late 40s, many of us in my generation and older, we were doing all kinds of stuff, riding our bikes, half a mile to a friend's house and then cruising around the block and riding home. 8, 9, 10 years old, this was our world, okay? Playing football in the street until it got dark out. That was our world. No adults around, unsupervised. Our parents generally knew where we were. We were learning autonomy, how to navigate issues that would arise, conflicts, etc. All those social types of things that you're learning when you have unsupervised play, it has changed, okay? And that is a big theme throughout this book. Loss of a sense of responsibility, okay? Think rite of passage type of things. Social interactions in person, losing all that. Sleep being free from disruptions. This is another element that is emphasized here by Jonathan in the book, that the devices are not only present in our home, but they're now also interrupting sleep. So quite an incredible change in these foundational norms that have existed for many, many years. And so we're going to keep moving here, but some great stuff. Next slide here I'm sharing with you guys. Parents, and I'm one of them, all right? Speaking to you, teachers, parents, we tend to be overprotective, right? I mean, some of us, some maybe don't, many do. Statistically, we are corporately more and more overprotective. There's a term for that. right? In the school setting, we might call them helicopter parents, all right? We can all be a little helicoptery depending on the topic. But this is something that has increased in nature over time. I love this example he puts into the book. I don't know, Desmond, if you're familiar with the Biosphere 2. This was a facility in Arizona.
Yes.
Where you familiar? Okay.
Yeah, I've seen like a documentary or something about it. That's the
so
extent
interesting. The whole thing kind of came to a collapsing halt, but one of the experiences he points out in this book has to do with the trees in Biosphere 2. They grew these trees, they got really, really big, and something interesting started happening. They started just falling over under their own weight. And as they kind of studied this out, they realized something, that in this controlled environment, what's missing? The wind. And so the wind, which would cause a tree to increase its root structure and strengthen its base, was virtually non-existent because the trees weren't undergoing friction with the wind, stress from the wind. They call that eustress, a good stress, because some stress is good. What's the correlation? It's probably pretty obvious, but it's to us as parents. When we restrict our child's ability to have unsupervised play and learn to navigate issues that arise between kids, which is natural, we're restricting their ability to develop their base and to be equipped for the world. And so I thought that was such an incredible just correlation he drew in this book.
Yeah, I think as parents, and we're getting to parenting here, but it's always our temptation, at least mine, to help my kid relieve suffering. Like not to go through that, but then I try to intentionally remind myself, and I'm sure I'm not perfect at it. No, let him deal with this. All right. There's times where I step in and help, and there's times where I need him. I'm a better parent to let him figure it out and to deal with it.
Absolutely. As much as possible, right?
Yeah.
And he has this quote in the book, and he shares this thought that happiness comes from learning to deprive external events from the power to trigger negative emotions in you. It's a very central element of what is learned through unsupervised play in children. Hey, if you're in a Christian school setting, you'll probably appreciate this. If you're not and you're using this presentation, again, feel free to adapt it and make it your own. But that last thought there reminded me of this verse, Romans 5:3-4. It says, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, or in our stresses maybe, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character hope.
That's good wisdom.
It is, right? It's all those things that we learn to deal with in a way that actually builds our character, right? I see perseverance and I think character. And so really can be a blessing when kids are unsupervised playing and learning to deal with the struggles of life. The other major theme in this book has to do, of course, with the impact of technology on kids. And so we're going to share a couple cherry-picked points, but again, there are many, so I don't want to suggest this is the perfect summary of the book. This is what stood out to me. Go read it, all right? Smartphones were owned by about 23% of American teens in 2011. About half owned a flip phone. If you're not sure what a flip phone is, go look it up. I know they're a thing of the past, but never had one. Did you, Desmond?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
Our first phone was a flip phone. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing. I always had the brick style that was just bigger and it got smaller over time.
Yeah, most of them were that, but my first one was a flip.
Nice. All right, so by 2016, nearly 80% of teens owned a smartphone and 30% of 8 to 12-year-olds owned one. Okay, so that's a 5-year change. You go from 23 to 80.
And now that's almost 10 years. That statistic's almost 10 years old now. I know in that time period, and I teach at a smaller school, but I definitely observed like you see what percentages of kids do or don't have phones. And at this point, like typically there's a couple that don't, but at this point, I think maybe I have one or two that don't. And that percentage gets smaller and smaller.
Yep, absolutely. So that statistic is not meant to be current. It's meant to demonstrate the period of time where we saw the rise of the smartphones in kids' hands, okay? And that'll be emphasized further here in a minute. But the social media rates adoption nearly mirrored that perfectly, okay? So just think, you went from 23% of kids on social media to 80. Okay, that's an approximation, but it's nearly the same. So impact, let's talk about this for a minute. Again, these statistics are shared. This is actually put together by the American Health Association, but Jonathan Haidt shares this on his website, where his book is also kind of covered. So that's where I actually found these statistics. So shout out to him for further helping with this process. But I want to just highlight this for just a moment. This is the percent of U.S. undergrads, okay, diagnosed with a mental illness. So undergrad, this would be up through, senior year in college. And you can see the rise in mental illness diagnoses. The gray bar is that change in smartphone usage, okay? So 2010 through 2015, it's roughly that time period. So that's what that is meant to demonstrate, in the correlation between a rather flat graph coming in and a pretty significant increase coming out of it, particularly with depression and anxiety increasing, both of them over 100% in youth since 2010. Another graph they share on their website, percent of U.S. anxiety prevalence by age group. And again, the gray bar representing the rise in smartphone usage. And, when I gave this presentation the last few times, I had to shout out any of you 50 plus. Hey, good on you guys, because y'all are killing it out here. You're not feeling anxiety, apparently, due to your smartphone. So great job out there, everybody, if you're 50 years or older. But hey, the rest of these age groups here, we're all feeling it on some level, aren't we? And obviously, ages 18 to 25 is impacted the most. Again, this is anxiety.
Aaron, can I just, I don't want to undermine your point here. I just want to point out
we're just talking.
This is correlation. And I think that smartphones is a significant thing that happened during that time period. But there was also an increase in global violence, an increase in, other things that are happening in our world. And I also think that those things are probably connected to smartphone usage as well. And we're in a world where there's a recipe of a bunch of things put together, and extra pressure to perform, which also goes to Instagram and other social media that puts on pressure to perform. Also just diagnosis or conversation. Some of these things might have been happening, but we didn't label it.
To Desmond's point, correlation, not causation. However, some of these other studies we'll reference here, we're not going to get into all the statistics, but when this is studied, the amount of time of usage is, again, it's correlated, but because of the direct correlation where more social media and screen time usage does correlate directly to higher instances of depression, anxiety. And so those things are very real.
And to support your point further, I think that I think there is a lot of connection to this. And anecdotally, I'm really curious to see the studies that are coming, hopefully starting this year, as so many public school systems, especially here in Virginia, have started banning cell phones, which now all of a sudden you have a large chunk of a student's day where they're not allowed to, see if they are, be on cell phones. And I'm really kind of curious if now we can see the other side of that. At our school, I know when we banned cell phones a number of years ago, I definitely see the difference. And our students' mental and social engagement, like all of the metrics you want, have drastically been better. So I'm kind of curious to see the other side of this.
Well, let's hope we get there quicker than later, right? Hey, moving on. We're going to move out of the book a little bit, but I just want to reemphasize one more time. Read the book. If you haven't, I promise you, parents, teachers, it'll be worth your time.
Okay, I have it on my bookshelf. I'll go home and read it.
Hey, all right. Parent and teacher, right? So you're in both boats. Some other great studies out there. This book cites a lot of studies. This one was done by the Gallup Foundation. And some of my takeaways from this study, by the way, these are linked in the presentation. You can link straight over to the study itself and read it. A few of my takeaways here from the Family Studies report that screen time restrictions matter most when combined with consistent supervision and emotional closeness. That's pretty profound. Desmond mentioned this off the top. Parents being involved in usage, being emotionally close. In fact, there were some profound statistics shared in this report on students having the same amount of screen time usage, but students where their parents were emotionally close had a much lower incidence of depression and anxiety. So super interesting what a powerful thing family relationships is and how it impacts us. Another note, while heavy social media use is tied to worse mental health and body image, more so in girls, dramatically more so, by the way, underlying factors, self-control, deficits, and weak parenting supervision. Wow. Call to action here, right? So you're wanting to instill in your kids the ability to have self-control, right? Going back to unsupervised play, they're having to navigate all these social situations and learn to control what they want out of things to navigate. That is part of that skill development. You take that away, you sequester kids in their home and put them in front of a screen, what's happening? None of that, right? They're not learning any of it. But again, weak parenting and lack of supervision, that was also one of the major factors impacting mental health and body image. So
I didn't have this ready to talk about, so I'll put it in the show notes. But a number of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, Facebook got in trouble because a study, and it might have come out through a court document or just a leak, but they had done an internal study showing the Instagram usage increased. I think it was depression, anxiety, and like body image issues in teenage girls, and they suppressed that. That was their own research that they did, and instead of doing anything about it, they just hid it. They didn't change their product. They just hid it because engagement is what they are going for.
So whose responsibility is it, Desmond? Let's embrace it as teachers and parents, right? Let's know this. Let's communicate it. Let's share it. Let's team up on it, I think is the thing. Because in reality, it's a team.
Yeah, and I... like, that's not the job of the company. So like, I can be upset at Meta. I said Facebook, Meta, but it's my job, right? As a parent. Now, I think they have a responsibility to give parents some controls, that they have, responsibility to disclose things that they learn. But it's ultimately my job as a parent and as a teacher to help them.
Hey, last takeaway here from this study, a strong, loving, and supervised home environment can offset much of the harm associated with screen time. Moving on, again, what comes to mind here? Proverbs 25:28, a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Back to that piece of self-control deficits. If we're not giving our kids the opportunity to learn self-control, how do we expect them to navigate really difficult situations, many of which arise on social media amongst friends? They got to learn to navigate it in the real world, and then they can develop those skills to navigate it online later. All right, so one more takeaway here from this study. Interventions targeting parenting skills and youth self-regulation may be more effective than focusing solely on screen time. That was a mouthful. What is that saying? Parenting skills matter. What else matters? Student self-regulation, kids regulating their own emotions. Parenting, self-regulation may matter more than just focusing on screen time. So that's profound to me. One more proverb for you, 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. It's our responsibility as parents, as teachers, to help instill these things in our kids, but also to give them the opportunity to learn the skills they need. Why not be intentional about it? Okay, and that's going to be two things: removing the screens in the correct context and encouraging them, facilitating playtime with friends. It's pretty simple. Building community. All right, so before we leave this entirely, there's one thing I wanted to mention I don't cover in the slides here, but key takeaways here. I don't think I have a slide on this. If I'm wrong, we'll get to it in the end, but there are some specific recommendations. I know, Desmond, you mentioned off the top about when to get an iPad and all that. So I think, actually, I tell you what, we're going to save that one. We'll do that one at the very end because I think we have that one. So let's continue here. Key objectives. We're going to plan for how to monitor technology use, and these are the slides coming up. We're going to help bridge the gap between home and school. We're going to plan for physical monitoring and storage of devices. We're going to familiarize with ways kids evade detection. We're going to establish rules of guidance for use. And we're going to decide when to allow cell phones and social media. We'll even talk iPads there. That'll probably be a little more anecdotal. But first one, all right, we're going to dive into how do you monitor? Parents, if you're not familiar with Bark, listen, none of this is paid promotion stuff. This is just our honest take. I've looked at a lot of tools, okay? Bark is right up there with the best, all right, from what I can find. There is a subscription fee. Teachers, as you're looking through these presentations, these all have links. So if you click through, you're going to go straight to the Bark website. You're going to see all the tools. A phenomenal monitoring device or software package. Heavily recommended. If I was starting over with young kids, I'd be all about using Bark or a similar product. Schools and parents, okay? This is a combo tool. Securely is a web filter that many schools use, but they have an incredible parent side piece where, example, if our iPad the students receive from the school goes home at night, parents have their own interface. They can turn off internet at whatever time they want. They can restrict app usage to certain apps. They can limit whatever they want to limit. They can access a full report of all the websites their child has visited throughout the day. They can block websites. So it's like a handshake between school and home to help co-manage the device. If there's other tools like this out there, Securely is not the only one, but I'm highlighting it because we use it here at Burton, but also because I think it has so much promise for schools to look at, whether it's them or a similar product that shakes hands between home and school to co-manage devices.
I like that. We use GoGuardian. I think it has that feature, and we've talked before. We need to roll that out. I do want to talk about these services like Bark. Bark is one I've heard a lot about, and I think it's time where I start to check one of these things out. But I also want to encourage you as parents, do a little more research than just picking whatever one you have for a few reasons. And one of the things, you think about what you want to teach your child, and one of the things you want to teach them is security. And you want to teach them how to have good security. And it's important to remember who can see the things. And if you can see the stuff, that means Bark can see the stuff, or whatever service you're using. And again, I've not personally vetted Bark, you have. But I would also check out other resources. And you said there's others. Please be careful on which one you choose, because your child's security is valuable and important, and you want them to learn that too.
Absolutely. Thanks for that caveat. Another great tool and resource, of course, Android has their own similar family management tool, but because I'm an iPhone user, we're an iPhone family or Apple ecosystem, I'm very familiar with iOS, and to be honest with you, speaking with friends that are on the Android side, iOS screen time is better in terms of management of children's devices. Okay, I'm not going to get into why, because I don't have that level of knowledge to explain it properly, but I have a very good friend who's an Android world person, much deeper level technologist than I am, and he said he would dramatically prefer to use iOS versus Android for management. But hey, I could be wrong. So to Desmond's point, check it out yourself. This is what I've used in the past, all the way back to where my kids were young. They're both in college now. iOS screen time, what can you do? You can view their screen time reports. It gives you cross-device summaries if they do have an iPad and a phone. Allows you to lock settings. You can manage all of their settings, including their downtime, which is when basically their internet turns off. You can set individual app limits, designate always allowed apps like the phone if you want them to be able to phone home or phone you at any time. You can even set the list of who they're allowed to call on that list. set communication limits, and safety control. There's a lot you can do. We're going to hit a few more things here with iOS. I've linked to a setup guide, so that's right there. I even have a 1-minute overview video link that's an awesome video on how to set it up. I've had this question many, many times from many, many parents, and I'm always like, hey, check YouTube because there's a video on that. Well, I went ahead and found the video for you. It's right there. It's 1 minute, and then there's a full setup guide as well. This will be a quick overview of the parental controls. We're just going to hit a few and go through these. You have content and privacy restrictions. You can prevent app purchases. You can allow only selected apps and features from those apps. You can allow only desired content. You have a lot of content-specific restrictions at your fingertips to use. You can prevent web content from unrestricted to limit adult websites to allowed websites. Allowed websites means you're blocking all the internet on all the apps, not just the browser. This is key. What I love about iOS screen time is it's a root level action. It's not app specific. So if I block all the websites and I have an app that's trying to access the internet over a certain website, it blocks that app too, except the list of websites I allow. Okay, so there's 3 really good options there for you. And again, of course, the reporting is fantastic, and there's an option to turn on to track individual websites visited. And so what I would do with my kids when they were growing up, I'd go to their report every week and run a weekly report, and I'd look through all the websites they visited each week. And I'd tell them I'm doing it because I wanted them to know. Okay, that's a key part of this. You can restrict games, of course. So yeah, that's a quick overview of iOS. Desmond, have you tiptoed into this arena yet, or what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, it's a good time to talk about the iPad thing. So I am an Android user. My youngest is using a very old, I think iPhone 7 or 6S that is very busted up, and he even has given up on it. He's used it for games, right? Play a little game here and there. And I kind of like that he doesn't have a super powerful device but he's given up on it, and now he's trying to steal my devices. And so his birthday is coming up. I'm considering getting him an iPad. And I would have.
He's not going to watch this episode, is he?
I've already talked to him a little bit about it. And his birthday is going to be before this airs.
All right.
But as I've considered it, as a parent, he's turning 8. I let him play some games. I don't want him on all the time. Yes, iPads are expensive, so that is part of my concern. But I'm also more concerned is all the things you had at the beginning of the presentation. I want him to engage in those things more. And part of me actually getting him a device, having access to the parental controls on his device rather than him using mine sometimes and stuff like that. And I need to use mine. Having the parental controls actually encourages me to want to get him his own device because I think, have a little more control over how long, instead of just being like setting a timer on my own phone or whatever. I can say, all right, it's going to shut off after however much time. And I can see reports and I can monitor that stuff a little better is my thought. And also a thing I think I mentioned to you earlier is I'm hoping that I could also use that to encourage him to use his iPad in ways that aren't just consuming. And my son loves creating things. I've gotten these little at Lowe's, they have these little wood kits where you can build things. And he's loving that. He's bought several. And I want to encourage him to create things. He's got blocks and stuff. And so an iPad of his own, I'm hoping that when he does use it, I can give him apps that will encourage that kind of usage, whether he's designing things that he builds in real life or taking videos of it or editing things. I'm hoping that I can do that. Now, maybe I'm just a idealistic parent and I should stay away from the screens.
I appreciate your thoughtfulness on this. I guess it's what you buy him is going to be very much dependent on what his interests are, right? I mean, that a lot of those things you want them to align. So I'm still not going to tell you whether you should buy it or not. But what I would say is, hearing you talk, I'm thinking about, kids often have access to game platforms, to parent phones, to your point. How many times do you go through the grocery store and the kids are on the phones constantly everywhere, down to 1-2 years old? They give them, parents give them phones. Don't do it. They're ubiquitous. Okay, so I think part of it is in context to what does life look like for him now, and how much will this be changing his environment? This could be a restriction from his current environment. Okay,
in a lot of ways, it will, because I'll have the apps on his device rather than on my device. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this will come to what we'll end this presentation with, and that's all the family time agreements. Okay, what are the rules for use? We have some of those in here coming up, and what does that look like at home? So when does he dock it? Where does he store it? What apps is he allowed to use? How much time? With iOS, you can budget whatever you've agreed on. If it's 20 minutes of Minecraft app a day, you give that budget, and that's what he can use. And at the end, it just locks up, and it'll, give him a little warning. So it's really, really nice for budgeting time, and that can really be valuable as kids are learning how to, manage time themselves. So I would say it really comes down to, how is it going to change his environment, and how does it empower you as a parent to teach him how to self-manage better? You know what I'm saying? So I think those are key considerations. I don't think the age itself is. I think social media is the much bigger issue that's kind of at the root.
He's not against social media.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you. We're going to get to that recommendation at the end as well.
Nor does he want to. I have to brag about my kid a little. He does, he loves playing. He loves doing those things. And he really, I guess because I've been so social media conscious and privacy conscious, he doesn't want his, he'll ask, if I take a picture of him, he'll often ask me, "You're not going to post that, are you?" And I don't. You won't find pictures of my kids online.
I love it.
At least not from me, because I want them to have the privacy online, but he asks about that.
I love it. Our kids are of the same spirit. Then don't post it. So, all right, we're going to keep moving here. This is another key topic. We're going to just touch on how do kids evade detection. VPNs is big. If you don't know what it is, we're not here to educate on that. Virtual private network. Essentially, it lets you evade control. So you need to learn about it, teachers and parents. Again, I'm not teaching about that today, other than they're a big way kids evade detection.
I would say, as a parent, what you need to know about VPNs is just block them all. Really, I can't think of a legitimate enough reason for a kid to use a VPN. There are reasons why adults need to use them, but there's also bad reasons for adults to use them. But for a kid, they don't need them.
So, what's ironic about this, Desmond? Some of the parent control apps use VPNs to manage the device. So that would be the caveat. But Bark is not one of those, as far as I'm aware.
I would shy away from those in most cases too.
Right. Using browsers instead of apps. So they might say, "Well, I wasn't on Facebook, or Twitter or whatever, or TikTok," probably more realistically. Because they don't have the app, but yet they're just using a browser to access it. Deleting and re-downloading apps. I've seen this many times where a parent will talk to me and, "Hey, what's going on with this?" And we talk to the kid and we find out, and this is common, okay, this is not isolated. They will download an app, use it during the day, okay, on a phone, and then delete it before they go home. So it's not on their phone. They're not using it. But they're using it during the day and not at night. And so, again, iOS settings, you can restrict their ability to install apps without a permission. Whereas a parent, you get a pop-up immediately. Do you permit the install of this app? Punch in your code. They've got it. Using friends' devices, that's a common thing we've heard. Using parent passcodes, this is actually one of the top things kids do. They just watch you put your passcode in, so protect it, all right? And then the biggest one, parents not monitoring, right? Kids know if they're not being watched and supervised, what's natural? They're going to expand their own territory. It's what they're great at, right? Pressing the boundaries.
Can I add another one that I've seen happen? You can also, Roblox, I'm going to call Roblox out hard because I think they need a lot of calling out against, but I know for Roblox, you can sign up. Get this. You can sign up for an account without even entering an email address. And so the kids can create disposable accounts that aren't under the parental controls all the time. And then, so they can log out and then log back in. And so the app-based parental controls do not always work, where you might have parental controls on Roblox, but they're not even using that account. They're logging out.
Scary stuff out there, Desmond. It's all the more reason to be engaged, parents and teachers. All right. Hey, wrapping up, what are the summaries here? We're going to go through it. Give children more playtime. That's not separate from screen time conversation. You got to replace it with something, right? So if you're taking them off of screens at home, what are you doing? Have them play, right? Structure time, build time around that. Involve your children in stable real-world communities. This is one of Jonathan Haidt's top recommendations. Hey, if you're plugged into a church community, good for you, because guess what? That's what that's all about, okay? Real-world communities that connect relationally, that's what kids need, okay? If you're not, then that's a mission you should be on, is to connect your child more with stable real-world communities. They need it. Encouraging, supporting hobbies, chores, and real-life play. Get involved with them. What are they interested in? Help grow those hobbies. Again, you got to replace the screen time with something else. Don't give smartphones as the first phone. Again, these I'm mentioning right now, these are all Jonathan Haidt's recommendations, not mine, okay? But I agree with everything here, okay? Don't give a smartphone as the first phone. He actually recommends, let's call it a flip phone, but the dummy phone that's not a smartphone. Don't give a smartphone until at least high school. I love this one. Okay, it's age-appropriate use. It's setting kind of that rite of passage benchmark. You're expressing that over a period of years. Well, hey, when you get to high school, if you've demonstrated the ability, you're going to get a smartphone with certain conditions. We supervise and monitor. Okay, everything's in place, but it's kind of a rite of passage thing. You don't want them graduating high school and leaving the house before they get their first smartphone, where you don't have the ability to help them in this process, right? So you have to find the happy median, Desmond.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have the dumb phones, if you will, and there's actually a rise of more options of that, I think, more recently. And a couple of years ago, Apple, to give them credit, and I'm not sure if it can work on the Android phones or not, but you can, or Android watches, you can get, on Apple, you can get a Apple Watch that is cellularly connected. So it's on the phone networks, that doesn't have to be connected to a phone. And so you can set it up as its own device, its own number, and you have a lot more restrictions, and there's only so much they can do on that watch.
That's right. Love it. The last one here, delay the opening of accounts on nearly all social media platforms until at least high school, but Jonathan Haidt's recommendation, 16 plus. I like it too, and I'll say this, our kids, we really pressed as hard and as long as we could not to be on social media. It was well into high school. I think my daughter got Pinterest maybe sophomore or junior year. My son, probably mid-high school is where he started getting social media. Hold out as long as you can, 16 plus. That's probably the sweet spot. That gives you a few years to help guide them in that process before they might be off to college or somewhere else. And let's face it, then they have unrestricted use at that point for the most part. A few more wrapping up recommendations here. Create rules around acceptable device use in your home. What does that mean? Where to store the device? Device free time at night. Monitoring solution that's in place. Your kids need to know about it. If you're going to be checking their web activity, they should know ahead of time so they have the opportunity to live up to your expectations. Delay social media as long as possible. Regularly talk with your kids about digital life. Make this a part of conversation. And then, last one on this page, grow, develop, and foster loving relationships and culture in your family. That relational piece should never be overlooked. Some resources. Go ahead, Desmond.
Yeah, I just want to talk about that last slide a little bit. And I do believe that as a parent, like, the conversation is super important. The relationship is super important. And I have observed parents who are more spying on their kids. And I mean, you are, I don't want to get too critical, because I think that probably is pretty common, but it concerns me. It does concern me because of several reasons. You break that trust. You're not maintaining trust. You break that trust with your child. And also, and I guess I get this a little from being a teacher, just them knowing that you are observing also prevents a lot of problems. And for them thinking, oh, this could be seen by, putting it in the public, making them not feel like they're perfectly private, will help them to make wiser decisions. I do tell my students, like, everything you do online, because they feel like the internet is private, everything you do online, ask, like, would you be okay with the whole world seeing this? And if not, don't do it, because the whole world might see it. And so setting that up where you are having a conversation where you ask your child, hey, and not always in a demeaning way, but like, oh, I saw that you read this article or played this game or, looked at this thing. What do you think? And to remind them you're a part of this with them. You're not the enemy. You notice, you care. Your kids want you to notice them. And so do it in a positive way for that.
What a great emphasis there. A few shared resource links here, Desmond. Focus on the Family has some great resources. This one I want to highlight here. I'm literally going to highlight it. The Plugged In resource by Focus on the Family. I wish we had time to dig into this one. It's really, really good. I will highlight these. I'm going to go ahead and just mention this example family planner and this sample family social media plan. These are excellent tools. I just really want you guys to dig in and use these. Those last two are both developed by Common Sense Media and kidsmentalhealth.com. And I just really want to shout them out because they've developed some great resources that I don't want to be overlooked. Use the planners, use the resources. And here's where I'd leave it. All right. Romans 12:2. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. We're under so much pressure today, Desmond, to like every other family has the thing and the kids running around. And so what happens? Your kid wants the thing that kid has, and we're busy and we're tired because that's what the world's given us. It's constant go. And so what do we do when we're tired and we're exhausted? We cave, right? This is an area that you don't want to regret not having given the attention and the time and the energy to. I promise you. I've heard too many personal stories from friends that have not given the time to this, and then terrible things have happened because there was not an intentionality to helping guide your kids through this. So I just want to encourage you, teachers, be a part of this conversation. Lead this conversation with your families. They need it. Okay, this takes a lot of time to put together the philosophies and learn the statistics, and you have this ability. This should be our wheelhouse as teachers, because too often we hear, I'm so tired of screen time, please don't let them be on devices. And I say, well, not all screen time is the same. In fact, let's help you at home do a much better job so that when they come to school, we can use this device how it should be as a learning tool to support their learning and roll out all of the modifications or support tools that are needed and do the assessment pieces that are so great as a teacher to receive real-time feedback. It's an incredible tool, but I think so often it's looked at with frustration because parents are not effectively managing it at home. So teachers, again, I appeal to you, embrace this. Be a leader in your school because your parents need it.
All right. Well, thank you, Aaron. And I think in closing, we talked about a lot of cool things today, about important things, valuable. This feels somewhat like a heavy episode, but also a really valuable episode. And I think Aaron and I are passionate about this because we love our own children, and we as teachers love our students, and we want this to help them be balanced people. We want them to be great people, and technology is a big part of that. And as adults, we struggle with it. And so I'm glad that all this didn't exist when I was a child. And so we want to encourage you to, I think the most important point, Aaron, was engage with your kids, and that is with or without technology, but engage in their life. Don't use technology as something to replace you, but to engage with your children, with your students. And so we shared about ways to manage social media, some tools, and we gave you a presentation. And I want to encourage you that a presentation, in any resource you would get like this, don't just get up there and just email it to your parents or just give the presentation, adapt it. You saw Aaron left space at the beginning for you to put your own name and school, change it, add your own research, vet the research we give, put your own versions of the apps or whatever you feel strong about, adapt it to your community because every community is going to be different as well, to your families and to your communities. And we hope that these tools are a blessing to you.
What a great wrap up, Desmond. Thanks for emphasizing those points. And hey, we want to just remind you again, we want you to subscribe. If you like this content, we want to see you regularly. Join us in the comments, share your feedback. Connect with us also at edtechunpacked.com. You can drop us a message, leave us a voicemail. We might even play that on air. And hey, we're on social media too. Join us on X, Instagram. We're also on Facebook and Blue Sky. So wherever you're connecting, we'd love to see you there.
And most importantly, we want to leave you with a blessing. We know that the technology can really, it's not always a blessing. It can definitely get in the way. And your families are struggling with it, and you're struggling with it, and your students are struggling with it. But we want to encourage you to foster these conversations, to foster this, to be a blessing. And you will get it wrong. I know as a parent, like there's things, the way I've managed my children's social media and, well, not social media yet. They're getting there. Their internet devices and stuff that I've not felt great about as a parent, their screen time. But this is a journey, and we know that you are on this journey to serve your students and your children the best. We believe in what you're doing, and we want to remind you that to keep doing it and keep going in what you're doing. And remember, there is no substitute for great teaching. It is not about the tools and technology you use, but about how you foster meaningful relationships with your students to transform their lives. Be blessed.